Today's daf is Maseches Nedarim, Daf Ayin. We are at the bottom of Daf Samach Tesam Beis. The Gemara, three lines from the bottom and the middle of the line. So the Gemara has a shayla like this. Rabba has a shayla. Another suffix b'negei the din of Hakama Nafara. So Boyu Rabba. Rabba has a shayla. If a father tells a daughter or a Baal tells his wife, Kayim lechi hayom, Kayim another today. So mi amrina, and do we say Commander Omar law? It's as if he told her Mufa lechi lemachar, because he didn't say anything about afara. So maybe he says Kayim lechi hayom, Kayim another today. He means to say that tomorrow is going to be afara. Dilma halay Omar law. No, Lamaisa he didn't say anything about afara, so we don't know anything about afara. So Melo. It's not afar. Zok the Gemara. Im timtzaloimar, says Rabbah. So if you want to tell me, we push it the suffix, that if it says Kayim lechi hayoyim, it has nothing to do with hafara, there's no hafara chal the next day. Haloi amar la. Because haloi amar la, because he did not say anything mafurish, explicit about hafara. So still you can be misopek amar la mufar lechi lemachar ma. What happens if Lamaisa he did say mufar lechi lemachar? Mi amrinon, do we say lemachar lo yimatzi meifar, that the next day he cannot be meifar the kaime lenidra hayoim? So he's clearing what's going to be halacha if he says mufar lechi lemachar. I'm going to meifar tomorrow. So do you say lamachar you can't be made for daha kain lenidayim? Because if Mivalti said mufar lechi lamachar, it's as if he said that he's going to be kain the nether today. So just to point out, the first side in the suffix that Rabbah originally had, if he says kain lechi hayom, so the first side was that do you say it's as if he's saying that tomorrow it's going to be mufar. So technically that's a problem, because how can you can't have a farah tomorrow, because a farah has to be Yom Shamai, the day you hear it in Nether, not tomorrow. So the Rush there explains that the hafara would be chal on that day for the next day. That's how it would work. Okay, just to point that out. But here the Gemara is clearing further that if he says mufar lechi lemachar, do you say that he means to mekayim the Nether today and a mela he can't be made for anymore tomorrow? Since Lamaisa he did not say it clearly, he means that it should be chal now, from now, the hafara for tomorrow. Even if he says mufar lechi lemachar, it's not hafara, because it's mashma from his words that he wants to mekayim it today. Do you say that and I'm sorry, no, and Kevan the Kima Yoim Lamachar command the Isidam, and since he's Mekayim today, tomorrow it's as if the net is still here and he can never be made for it. So still Zakrava, you can misopik Kayim L'Chisha. What happens if he tells her Kayim L'Chisha, I'm being Mekayim it for the time being? Mahu Mi Amrina, do you say that he only wants the nether to be chal l'shah, but afterwards he wants the nether to be afara? Or Commander Amar l'mofel l'chila achashah dami, is it like he's telling her, I'm sorry, and it's Commander Amar l'mofel l'chila achashah dami, it's as if he said, I want to be made for it in an hour's time. Dilma halay Amar la, Lamaisi didn't say mafurish that he wants to be made for the nether after an hour, so therefore there would not be hafara. Im timtzaleimar zaktrava, and you want to be pushed the suffix that the nether is not mufar la'achashah, because halay amar, because he did not tell her meferish that he wants to be made for a miu. You could still be misopik in a case where amar la, if he tells her beferish, he does say Kayim l'chisha or mufar lechi li'achasha. Let's say he said it like that clearly. So what's the halacha? Do we say came in the kaim l'shah, came in the kimoi? Since he's mekayim, it blives hakama forever. Idilma came in the kuli yoyim bar hakama u bar hafara, who since the whole day could be a bar hakama the neder or bar hafara. And even if he did not do it in the morning, he still has until the night to do it. Ki amar mufal l'chilach hashah mahani. If he says mufal l'chilach hashah, then the hafara would help. So the Gemara wants to push at this last suffix that we're clearing of kain l'chisha mufal l'chilach hashah. So the Gemara Tashma, I'll bring you a raya. The Mishnah says in Nazir Daf Chafim Beis, if a woman says Hareini Nazira, I want to be a Nazira, the Shama Baila and a husband hears Va'amar Va'ani, and he says also on himself he wants to accept Nazirus. The halacha is Ein Yachal Hafer, he cannot be Mefer his wife's Nazirus. Why? Because since he was Matvas himself in the Nazirus of his wife, so he was Megal Das that he likes her, he's okay with her Nazirus. And it has a din, it's as if he made a Hakama. So the Gemara clears on this din. The Gemara wants to know why can he make for his ears? Nema va'ani da Omar. This city said va'ani. His intention was hu al nafshed avinazar. It's only in himself he wants to be nazar. Va'rein nazira di law, but this, as she said, is nazila. The sha'achas kaima. Maybe he only approves of her being a naziris. The sha'achas only to a point because he wants to be matas his naziris. But how do you know that he wants her Naziris to be chal more than a short amount of time, let's say an hour, l'shah? Well, maybe he could go be made for her Naziris after that time, after that period, small period of time, an hour, whatever it is. So Zok the Gemara, so why can he mefer? What's takap shot in that understanding? La mishum the kevon the kimoi that once he's mekayim, once he shows approval, it's approved forever. And you see from this, Lagabe the suffix of Kaim L'chi, if he says Kaim L'chi Shah and Mufer L'chila Achar Shah, we say that it's Hakama La'olam and he can't be Mefer, and he can't tell her afterwards. Once he says Kaim L'chila Shah, he cannot say Mufer L'chila Achar Shah. So Gemara Loi, Avad, I'll tell you that no, Hakama L'Shah is not like Hakama La'olam. It's not forever. Navadi could be made for after a show. So what's Pshat and Tana and Mishnah in Nazir, in that halacha? Teretz is Kol Va'ani Kamanda Amar Kayim L'chila Olam Dani. Whenever a guy says Va'ani, so that Va'ani, when he's saying he also wants to accept the Naziris, Mikal Naziris on himself, it's as if he said Kayim L'chila Olam Dani, and therefore he can never be made for. So you don't have a rise, Dr. Gemara. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. We learned in the beginning of the parak, next Mishnah. We learned in the beginning of the parak Nayim Merasa that the Zalacha Nayim Merasa Aviva Baila Mifir Nedarim. So that they're made for an Nedarim together, B'shutva, Sa'av and the Baal. So the Mishnah over here is going to be discussing the different halachas between the father and the Baal, the Av and the Baal. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Meisav, what happened to Nayim Merasa Shemir Neder, and her father died? The halacha is Loi Nisroik Rishos LaBaal. The Rishos of the father does not get emptied out and turned over to the Baal, and the Baal cannot be made for himself his Nayim Merasa Nedar. Masha Enkin, the father, as long as, even though Kozman Aras is alive, he has to make for together with him. But it may Baal, Allah is the opposite. If the Baal dies, a Sreika Rishus Lav, his Rishus gets to that Rishus that she had with Rus before he died, Daras before he died, now the father could be made for himself. Here the father has the upper hand over the strength of the Baal. However, the Baal has a strength that the father does not have, and that is Shahabal Mefer Bebegar. The Baal could be Mefer in the Nedarim of Misarusa Bebegar when she's in Bagras, which is after 12 and a half, I believe. And the father cannot be made for his daughter's Nedarim when she becomes a Begaris, only as long as she's in Naira stage. But once she becomes a Megaris, she goes out of the Rishus of her father totally. So a girl, once she becomes 12 years and 1 day and she brings Shtei Cyrus, she has a Denaira. After 6 months, when she's 12 and a half, she becomes a Begaris, okay? And a daughter is only in the Rishus of her father, only when she's a Katana, and by Nairis, which is the first 6 months of her being 12 years old. But once she becomes a Begaris, she goes out of the Rishus of her father for everything, and that is when she's 12 and a half. Zakta Hilig Gemara. This is the Mishnah said, Mesa'av, Loyer Snake Nisraik another Rishus Labal. So, effectively, my timer, what's Takap Pshat? Why did you learn about Baal, Va'av, just like you say, Mesa Baal, Nisraik Rishus La'av, say Mesa'av, Nisraik Rishus Labal? Zakta Gemara, the Omar Kral, the Pasuk says about Midbar Paraklam and Pasuk Yizayin, Binureo Beisaviyah. It's mashma that even after her father dies, his bias still stays even after he dies. From here you see that as long as she's still considered a Beisaviyah and she did not get married and go into Rishus of her husband, she's still not in Rishus of Aris himself at any time, even if the father dies. The Gabi Afaris is there. Meis Habal Nesroik Rishus La'av. The halach is Meis Habal. It is Nesroik Rishus La'av. Rishus La'av. In fact, the Gemara Manolan. How do you know what the father is made for himself after Misa Sa'aros? Zok the Gemara Amar Rabba. The Amar Kra. The pasuk says in Midbar Lamed Parak Lamed pasuk Zayin. If she is to a man, Unidareha Aleha. So it says a lashon v'mhayoy siya. So it's like double lashon almost. So it's telling you two havayis. Makish koidme havayis shnila koidme havayis rishayna. It's comparing. It's saying it's similar. The before of the second havayis to the before of the first havayis. Just like the Nedarim that were before the first havayis, which is before the first eris, the erisin, the father had full rishus over for the Nedarim. So the second Havaya, which is after the Aris dies, is Hokash to before the first Erisin, and we say that the father can be made for. So you say Ma Koid Me Havaya Rishonim before the first Rishonim Erisin, Av made for the Chudei, the father can be made for, like it says, Va'asr Yisrael Beisaviyah, Af Koid Me Havaya Shniya, oh so too. So too, after the second Erisin, Av made for the Chudei. So, Frakta Gemara, Ema, maybe say, Hani Mili, that it's a Sreik Rishus La'av, but Nedarim Shalei Niro La'aris. Maybe in Nedarim, that the Aris never heard about them, and he was never Zeich in them. Which is similar to Koid Me'avai Rishon, also before the first Erisin, that's what you're comparing it to. Nedarim Shalei La'aris, and then he died, Le'matzi Mefer, maybe the father cannot be Mefer. Maybe that's not part of the Hekesh. So Zakti Gemara, if it was talking about a Nedarim that Lo Nir La'aris, and that's when you tell me that Allah, you say that you makash Koid Me'avai Rishon, Koid Me'avai Rishona. For that, I would not need a Hekesh, because that ben Rabbi Savia Nafka, that the father can make for himself, like all the Nedarim of his daughter that's a Pnuya. Because the Aris wasn't Zeich in them. So that's Pashat that the father can be Zeich. So Zakti Gemara must be the Hechrich, that the Hekesh we have is coming to teach us on the Nedarim that there was Niru La'aris before he died, but then he died and he got a chance to make for them. And even on that, the Hekesh is teaching us that the father has a koyach al tzmeis habal nesreik rishos la'av. Zok the Gemara weiter. Bezeh yafa koyach ha'av mi koyach habal. That Mashenkin the Yafa Koyach Habal, that he's made for Rebagris, and the father's not made for Rebagris. Zok the Gemara Hichi Dami. When is it talking about that the Aros can be for Nigar Sasai Begaris? Eli Mishkich Naira, he's Mkadosh when she was a Naira between 12 and 12 and a half, and Vibagra, and then she becomes a Begaris. L'cher in this case, the Aros is not made for her Nedarim. Michti Mitza, why? Because Michti Misa Maitzia, Misa brings her out of her rishus of her father. The Bagras Maitzia, Bagras brings her out of the rishus of her father. So Ibzay Chari could learn Bagras from Misa. Ma Misa, just like Misa, the father dies, Loy Nisreg Rishus Labal, so too Bagras, maybe it should be Loy Nisreg Rishus Labal. And he can't be made for himself, because at the time that he's Mikasher by Nairis, she was still Rishus Aviyah. So Zok the Gemara, if you want to tell me that this is the scenario that a Baal can be made for Nedarim for his wife that's a Begaris currently, as if he married her when she was a Nairis, maybe he should not have a Koyach. Maybe it should be compared to Misa. Misa'av. That's like in Leina Circus Shosabal. So to the Bagras say Leina Circus Shosabal. Zok the Gemara, Ella, I'll tell you, Shekitchik she Begaris. Tomei is Mekadosh when he's a Begaris. And after the time that Chacham gave for Aras and Arusa to prepare themselves for the Suin, there was a certain amount of time they gave for it. If he still did not get married, is a Mishnah in Ksubis. The Mishnah is in Ksubis, Dafna Zayin. The Mishnah says you give a Basula 12 months. Leisin Basula Shnai Masachodesh Mishnah Tava Baal Lafarnas Satzma. And the Mishnah says Kshem Shnaisin Leisha. So too we give time Leish Lafarnas Satzma. Lamana you give Shloishim Yoim. He gives Mamlei Nisul. The Lach is Oichas Mashaloi. She eats truma from him. So the Gemara holds. The Gemara wants to say now that since she's already by Geras and she goes out of Rishus of father, so the Aras himself can make for Nedarim out just like he has a Chiyuv Mezainis. So maybe that's what it's talking about. That if it was over this man that the Chum gave, as Higiya's man, maybe that's when the Aras has a Koyach to make for out a Chiyuv Mezainis. Maybe it's Talmud Chiyuv Mezainis. So the Gemara Hatanina Chad Zimna. This we already learned in the Mishnah later on, Daf Ayin Gimel. Habegeras Shashas Hashnei Masachodesh. It says clear over there in the Mishnah of Samach Gimel Ayin Gimel Beis. A Begeras awaits 12 months from an Eris and she's not get married. Lezer says since her husband is Chayiv Mezainis, Mameli can make for himself. So we wouldn't need that. Wouldn't be what the Mishnah over here on Daf Ayin is saying. So before the Gemara answers the question, what's the Mishnah talking about? The Gemara is going to ask a little weiter. The Gemara asks Hagufa Kasha. This Mishnah itself is shver. Amret habegeras shas shnei mas chodesh. Begeras, he's telling me that a begeras is shas shnei mas chodesh. Begeras lamli shnei mas chodesh. Or begeras b'shleishim yoyim. Sagila lachayra. If you want to tell me it's talking about that he did erison on a begeras has halacha after 30 days. You don't even have to wait 12 months. The whole din of waiting 12 months is not for begeras. So Zok the Gemara, Tani Begeres, V'shashas Hashem Masachodesh. There's two halachas taka in the Mishnah. One is a Begeres that waits 30 days from an Erisin, the Aras himself can be made for, and also a Naira that waits 12 months, the Aras himself can be made for. So now, for the Gemara, Mekomokum Kasha, why did our Mishnah have to say it over here in Daf Ayin and later on Ayin Gimel? Why do I have to say the halacha twice? So the Gemara, to answer that question, and for the Gemara, Ibo Yisayim HaHacha, I could tell you, Ibo Yisayim HaHacha Dafka, the Begeres, that over here is the Iker Chiddush. The Begeres Tani Hasam, this is what it says that again later on, Mishum Deboi Efluger B'Lazar Rabbanan, because the Tana wants to tell us that there's a Machlik Sir B'Lazar and Rabbanan B'Negei. And it's only Shitas Rebbe Lazar. However, the Chachamim would hold that even after Sigia is a man to get married, the Baal cannot be made for until he actually goes into his Rishus. And it's not enough that he doesn't hold his Tali and Chidim Zaynis. That's one pshat. Another Teretz at Gemara V'Yiboyseim Begeras Dafka. The Iker Chiddush is Taka later on. It was talking about the Din of Begeras. And over here, it's Taka not the Mokum. Over here, it's not the Din we're handling. Because we said over here in the Reisha, the Mishnah is Yava Koyach Ha'am, Koyach Ha'bal, the Gavin didn't Sreika. So we said also, okay, fine, the Sefer Nami Bezeh, we also said in the Sefer that it's also Yava Koyach Ha'bal, but if the Ikar Chiddush is not here, it is later on Daf Ayin Gimel in the Mishnah. That's where it's come to like Chiddush. These are the two Terutzim of the Gemara.